Now, Ask Dr. Love with psychotherapist, author, love and relationship expert Dr. Jamie Turndorf. For expert advice on love and relationships, you can submit your questions online at AskDrLove.com or post comments and questions to Dr. Love while you're watching live over Google Hangouts or YouTube. Now, here's Dr. Love.
Welcome to Ask Dr. Love. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf, and it is my pleasure to be with you today for Perfect Passion After 50. So let me ask you, have you noticed if your sex life is dwindling as you age? Well, I don't want you to despair, because today we're going to be talking with Dr. Laurie Betito. She's the author of The Sex Bible for People Over 50. She's a clinical psychologist with a specialty in sex therapy, and she's been practicing as a psychotherapist for the past 26 years. She's also the president of the Sexual Health Network of Quebec, formerly Planned Parenthood, and the past president of the Canadian Sex Research Forum. And for the past 24 years, she's been dispensing sex and relationship advice over radio and TV, and she's also a regular contributor to various magazines and newspapers and TV shows. And you can also hear her nightly in Montreal on CJAD 800. And her show Passion has been on the air for 15 years, and it has always been number one in its time slot. So welcome, Dr. Laurie. You're with me?
Thank you. Boy, do you say Montreal very sexily.
Well, I can't, the thing is, I realized as I said it, because I heard my husband, who was French, say Montreal, so I couldn't help but go into the French way. And then I realized after I said it, nobody will know what I'm talking about. I have to say it the English way, Montreal. That's how we say it, right?
Montreal, as we say it.
Say Montreal, like Munchausen.
Exactly.
And then when I did your call letters, I started to say the J like
French.
They do in French, CG, and it's CJ.
It's an English radio, in fact.
Yes, I just slipped. I just completely slipped. So I'm so excited to talk with you because I know we're going to have an uplifting show, and I do mean this literally. How to keep flags flying at full mast, right?
Uh-huh.
All righty. So talk to me. Why did you write this book for people over 50?
Well, I had a couple of reasons. One reason was rather selfish, turning 50 and having a partner who was over 50. So I decided, you know what? It's time for me to start looking at sexuality later on in life. And I started to be asked to give a lot of talks in Montreal and elsewhere on aging and sexuality. So what I found was that there was a lot of information lacking. Like, people need this information. And when I think of my listener base, who are on average about 45 years old, and many of whom are much older, they drink it all in because there's a thirst for that knowledge that they don't know where to get it from. They're not exposed like the younger people are, and not that they don't have the internet and such, but there was a missing piece for me and for many people. At least I found that from my clinical practice, that people needed that sex education for older adults.
That is so true. And, the thing is, probably a lot of people in this age bracket are a little less comfortable getting their advice on the internet because you and I both, we grew up before the internet.
That's right. That's right. And they don't trust it, and they don't know, are they getting porn sites? Are they going to get, so they don't know who to ask the question to. Often these are things they don't know quite how to put the question. And, of course, the one thing I hear most often is people coming in saying, look, I'm feeling this way or that way. Is that normal? When I start to hear, I get that all the time. Is that normal? Am I normal, right?
Exactly. No, you're crazy. You're just crazy. You're not. No.
So I really wanted a book that would say to people, listen, there's a variety of ways of being sexual, and you have to expect changes as you get older. And just because you're not the same that you were when you were 20 or 30, just because your erections aren't as hard, just because, whatever, it doesn't mean you're not normal. It's part of the process, and we have to adapt to that process rather than lament the loss of something. It is a difference. It isn't a loss, but a difference.
Yeah, and what you're saying, so many women say that their male lovers, if they're in heterosexual relationships, their male lovers have actually become better lovers as they've aged because they take longer to get an erection, longer to ejaculate. They're not so quick, on the draw,
That's right, and they're more willing. They're more willing to take the time to pleasure you, and they know your body better as well. But it's not just them, right? You're also, as you get older, as women get older, we get more comfortable in our skin. We may not like our body so much, but we still feel better in our skin overall and are able to ask for what we want.
We hope so, right?
Well, we try to be. That's the aim, right? That's the goal.
When you said comfortable in our skin, I immediately riffed out on foreskin, and then I went off on this. I'm crazy, Laurie. I went off on this association where after my husband died, everybody says to me, Jamie, you've got to do internet dating. You live on a dirt road. Where are you going to meet anybody? So I did a brief stint, with internet dating, and I was talking on the phone one time with this guy, and he starts to get drunk, and he says to me, I have a feeling you have a wild side. This is what he tells me. And he says he wants to meet me midway. He lives somewhere, I guess, 4 hours away. And he wants to meet me halfway because I need to have some... No, I back up. I have to say, the first thing the guy said to me was, I saw your picture and I thought, I could F you. This is literally what he said to me.
Really nice.
Right, charming. I'm thinking, my hero, Mr. Romance, He's just like my romantic French husband, right? So, and then he says to me, I want you to meet me halfway because you need to have some skin in the game. And this is where my brain went, where I said, I think you mean you want some foreskin in the game. This is where my brain went. Like,
no, thank you.
Horrible. So that was a crazy association, but now I'm coming back now to what we were talking about knowing your body as you get older. Right? And I even read, I'm sure you saw the same research, right, that women who come out of marriages, maybe in their 40s or 50s, end up being more orgasmic. People would think, oh, how's that possible? That they're much freer,
Well,
and
that's
relaxed.
the myth. That's one of those myths, Jamie, that women, as we get older, our orgasms are less intense, when in fact the opposite is often true. They're better. They're more intense as we get older, again, because you know your body more and you're freer with yourself. So you're out of your head and into your body a little bit more.
And then also, too, the women that they surveyed were just so glad to be out of a relationship that wasn't working. And so they were even comfortable in having more casual sexual encounters, and they felt free, unfettered, and this was much easier for them to have pleasure. Yeah.
That's it. You're absolutely right. I hear it described a lot like, I felt like I was back in high school again.
Damn. Right?
Which is great, which is why it's so important when we think about sexual desire. These same women in those marriages that ended probably felt that their desire had up and left forever. And then they divorce, they start to get involved in new relationships, and they realize, it was never gone. It just needed to be woken up by the right context. And that's the reality, is that women in long-term relationships lose that. They lose that horniness, They lose that spontaneous desire for sex with somebody for eons. But if you were to put them with a new partner, that comes back. Now, I'm not saying that's the solution, but it just goes to show that it's dormant and not dead.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is where, my whole thing with resolve your conflicts, because you have unresolved conflicts. That's the number one killer of your love and your passion. It's a major later, as you know.
Well,
if you're feeling as dry as the Sahara Desert, well, let's get you connecting. Let's have you feel understood and heard and getting along. And boy, doesn't the juices flow? Doesn't the drive increase?
Right.